Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. I think people are on a little bit of a time lag this morning. Everybody just comes in at 1 minute to 10 a.m. Thank you all for coming. My name is Vicki Iozia. I'm the first president of the league, of a wonderful league of fantastic women. And I want to tell you a couple of things before I introduce our guest speaker. First, would you please mute your cell phones and your Apple Watches? They're so picky. You have to press just the right buttons to get them to do what you want them to do. This meeting is going to be recorded. It will be available on the website. It'll be available in the newsletter. How many of you get the newsletter? Okay, if there's anybody who wants to get the newsletter and doesn't get it, just let somebody know at the table. I'll add you onto the list. We have almost 200 people who are receiving it now. Would you please, if you can, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you would please remain standing, we'll have a moment of silence for whatever you would like to spend that time thinking about. Thank you. On your seat, you have this, which is reminders if you want to know what's going on with the league. We are going to take August off. We won't have a meeting then, but we have them every other month of the year. We are having some socials. The next one is on the 18th, which is a week from today, at Cattle Dog Restaurant. We just get together and get to know each other and just chat a little bit and have a little coffee and whatever else they have there. In the back, there are some copies of Citrus Life magazine. How many of you know about it? Oh, not many. Okay. It's at businesses, doctor's offices, and places like that. I have 3 articles in here that I wrote. One of them is about the Homosassa Springs Park. We lost my heart this week. We lost Lou. The other one is about volunteering for the Sheriff's Department. And then there's one about a good friend of mine, Joanne Tuxbury, who went to space school. She was a teacher, and she would get materials for her classroom if she did that. So for her wedding anniversary, her husband said, "What would you like?" And she said, "I want to go to space school." It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker. And that's why you're all here today. Here's Scott Hebert. I won't say all of your credentials because we'd be here all day. But he's been part of Citrus County Schools for the past 29 years. He doesn't look it, does he? He's been a teacher, guidance counselor, technology specialist, assistant principal, director of area schools and elementary education, executive director of educational services. Wow. And he's the superintendent of schools. He earned his doctorate degree in educational leadership from Florida Southern College. He was the 1999 Florida Teacher of the Year. And he was also inducted into the Florida Educators Hall of Fame in 1998. He believes that in every grade level and in every class, the focus of the classroom should be on what needs to happen to make children successful. He has a deep commitment to serve children and their families, and we're very glad that he's here with us today to tell you about his plans for the school district. So please help me welcome Scott Hebert. Let me get all this stuff out of the way for you. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for having me today, and I'm humbled and honored to serve as your superintendent of schools. With me today, who may come up and answer some questions on some things to help, is Derek Bittner, and Derek is our Director of Community Relations and Strategic Initiatives. So thank you, Mr. Bittner, for being here, and he'll be able to answer any questions we may have as too, so you get one. So I do want to jump in. You mentioned Space Camp, and when I was Teacher of the Year for the state, I had the opportunity to go to Space Camp actually in Huntsville, Alabama. And so what an amazing experience it was to be able to interact. I got to meet astronauts and experience a lot of great things. So it's a great opportunity for anyone that gets to do that. So I'd like to share kind of where we are in the school district and kind of some things that I've been working on and what we're planning. So when I was elected in August, Ms. Himmel was still our superintendent until November. So we were kind of in that transition mode where she was still the superintendent, and November 19th is when I took over in that role. So beginning on that date, I started what I called a 100-day listening tour. I thought it was important moving into this role. We were midway through the school year with kids and staff. I didn't want to make major changes within the school system at that time, but I wanted to listen and learn from our community, from our staff, from our parents, and our students. So we spent that time, and it went right up until Crest graduation. Now, the 100 days was 100 school days, so I don't want you to think calendar days. Yes, I can still count, but it was school days for our students, which is how that worked out. So we went around, we had a chance to listen to lots and lots of different folks, and one of the things that came out of that was an opportunity for a new logo. And so the question came, they said, we believe, we've had the logo for 20 years, the Citrus County Schools. It was the apple with the big C. And they said, it'd be nice if we could have something new that kind of moved us in the next direction of where we're going. So I contacted some colleagues of mine that are superintendents, and I said, tell me about the process you went through. So several of them would tell me, they had community input. Some said, I just decided it my own and then made it my logo, and then I pushed it out. Well, I felt like the logo should represent the community. It should represent who we are and who our school system is. So I didn't want to go that route. Well, then I said, how much is this going to cost? Because I thought that's important too. There were districts that spent well over $100,000. Now, when I say $100,000, this is on just developing the logo. They said they hired a company that came in and they did all the research, they did all this, and they developed the logo, they had people. And I came back to my team and I said, I'm a conservative, I'm not willing to spend $100,000 to have a picture. I'm not going to do that. So I asked the team, is this something you all can do, or we're going to leave the current logo that we have? The team said, we believe we can do this, we have the skill set, we want to make this happen, let's work together to do it. So we went through a process. We had lots and lots of different iterations that we came up with. We gathered feedback. Every time we heard something, we're like, let's change this, let's do this, and let's do this differently. So I'm asking Mr. Bittner, he's going to share the logo, which has information on it, and I'm going to talk to you about the logo design and what each part of it means, because I didn't want to just have a logo just to have a new look. I wanted it to mean something, because if it means something, people are going to want to be a part of it and want to embrace it. So if you look at the logo, as Mr. Bittner is passing out, the heart of the logo is the graduation cap. My goal in Citrus County as superintendent is 100% of our students are going to graduate from high school. That's what I want. Every student to walk across stage. In May, we just finished our graduation, and it was great to see students coming across, getting those diplomas, happy and smiling. So that was important to me. That shows that the success of going through the school system. Part of that is I think every student should have pathways, options, or choices for them. So you see those three different colored lines, the blue, the green, and the black, which represent the different pathways kids could choose. Some may choose to enter the workforce, go into a career. Some may choose to go to post-secondary, college, technical school, some kind of training that they want to get. And then we have some students that want to enter the military. Those are basically the three pathways students choose from, and I wanted that to represent that. I also wanted to represent where we graduate kids from. So the blue represents Crystal River and Crest. The green represents Lecanto and Withlacoochee Technical College, and the black represents Citrus High School. But more importantly, with those colors, if you look at it, and the gold is the hat, every single school in our district is represented in one of those colors. We went and checked, and I wanted to make sure that this represents all 24 schools in our district. Elementary, middle, high school, post-secondary are represented somewhere in one of those colors. That was important to me, that they're all involved and all a part of that. The other piece that is very important to me is this community. I've been here 35 years. My wife and I have lived here, worked in the school system, and this community is important to us. So the blue represents the river. We live on Crystal River, Homosassa. The river's a part of us and a part of our community. That's important. The green represents the state forest, and the black represents the rails to trails. As you know, we believe in having people out and biking and all those types of environments, so the black represents that. And then the orange that you can see, one, it's a citrus fruit. The other piece is agriculture. Agriculture is very important to me. I grew up on a farm when I was in school growing up, and farming and agriculture is very important. This community is still very important in agriculture, so that citrus fruit represents the importance of agriculture. So this whole symbol that we have, this new logo, now represents who Citrus County is. My plan is that every teacher is going to understand, every staff member that works for us is going to understand what this is, and this is a part of who they are and how it represents Citrus County. So this was just unveiled last night. We were very excited about it, and it didn't cost us 1 cent to do it because it was done internally. So, yeah. If you have a chance and want to watch our school board meeting, there's a video, and I know we're going to be putting it out on our website that kind of describes what I just did, but the video does a really nice job. It kind of shows each piece and has lots of pictures of kids in it. But that video was created by our staff as well as in collaboration with the sheriff's office. So Sheriff Vincent, who used to be our police chief, and I are friends outside of work. And so when this came up and our staff didn't have some of the technology to be able to create the video I wanted, and he said, come on down to the sheriff's office, we'll do it together. So we went down, his team worked with our team, and we were able to create the video. So I have to give credit to Sheriff Vincent on being able to say, we have to work together. As leaders in this community, it's important that we work together. And with Sheriff Vincent in the seat, he is very much a great partner and a great person that works with and supports our school system and supports us. So that is the logo. That really is what we're hoping now as we move forward. That again, we're the largest employer in Citrus County. If you're not aware of that, the school system is, and we have lots of buildings, lots of places. You're not going to see the logo automatically on things. It's going to happen over time. Because again, I don't want to just go spend money to say we're going to put it out there. As we move through the process and we're able to add it here and add it there, you'll start seeing it pop up on vehicles, you'll see it on some of our buildings, and you'll see it out and about. But hopefully this will help you. You've got the sheet to be able to share what it means and why we have it. The other piece that was important as I was traveling around and hearing, not only a campaign, but during the 100-day tour, was the importance of communication. People want to know and want to hear what's happening within the school system, and they want to have that open line of communication. So we convened together a group of stakeholders. There were parents, students, teachers, community members, all kinds of administrators sat in a room, and we said, what is it that we need for communication? Well, if you're a parent or if you've worked in our school system, there are multiple ways that we communicate with families. So Facebook is one, Instagram, right? We have that, emails, text messages, we have those systems. And then within the school system, there are different ways that teachers communicate with families, something called Class Dojo, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams. So there's lots and lots of ways they communicate. So you're a parent, you have a child at 3 different levels. Guess what you might have? 3 different ways that you have to get information. So you have to know, my elementary kid, I got to go to Dojo. My middle school kid, I got to go here. As our communication officer, Lindsay Blair, pushes information out, she has to then go and say, okay, I got to put it on Facebook. I got to put it here. She's got to put it all these different places. Well, that takes time. So once you put it somewhere, and word travels now, because most people have some kind of electronic device to get the information, we want it to go instantaneously, and I want it to hit everybody at the same time. I don't want one person to hear it before somebody else. I think it needs to happen simultaneously. So we looked and found a product that we could use called Parent Square, and this product is going to be efficient and streamline our communication process within our school system. The beauty of it is, by eliminating some of these other products, we're saving money. So now we're able to purchase a product that's less money than all these other products to be able to communicate and be more efficient. So now Ms. Blair, she creates a message that's going to go out from the district level. She hits a button and it goes to everybody. It goes to Facebook, Instagram, she has it set up to go to the Chronicle, news stations, whoever it needs to go to, it goes out instantaneously. We can have it go to text message to families, to email to families, whatever method of communication it needs to go to, it can do it instantaneously and simultaneously. And she has one message. She doesn't have to log in. Families know they're going to have one app they go to. It's all right there. They don't have to go to 50 places to say, where am I going to get this information? They can do that. And they can make a choice to say, I'd like it to come in as a text. I'd like it to come in as an email. I'd like it to come in this way. And then we then customize it for the families to do that as well. So we're very excited about this. We're right now in the rollout stage as far as this summer getting it all together and then training our staff. And then again, we got to train our parents and families that are going to use this, because we know we have families that are going to have some challenges with how to use the new tool, and we want to make sure that we provide that to them. So we're super excited about being able to do that and provide that opportunity for our families. The other piece that I'm doing as I'm going out now, and I talked about finishing the 100-day tour and doing what we call a strategic initiative that I'm going to unveil at our school board meeting. And I will share with you, I need to share it with our school board before I share it with everybody else, right? That's the right thing to do. The school board and I, we all work together. So in 2 weeks, I have a school board meeting, a workshop in the morning, and I'm going to be sharing that strategic initiatives with them. We've been working on it. We're developing it. I'm giving you some tidbits. So I'm not giving you the whole plan, but I'm giving you tidbits of what's going to be in the initiatives that I'm sharing with them. But the other piece that I'm doing as I'm out speaking is I want to make sure that I'm continuing to listen. Even though you say, well, Scott, you're on your listening tour, it's over, or you're not listening anymore. No, I want to continue to listen. So there's a card that Mr. Bittner is going to pass out to you, and I'm going to ask you all, if you're willing, if you want to, it says, what skills do you believe students need to enter the workforce? Now, there's 3 lines. Those of you that are former teachers in here are going to say, I got to fill out all 3 lines. You want to do 1? You can do 1. If you want to do 2, if you want to do 3, if you want to do columns and do a lot more, if you want to write in the back, that's okay too. But I'm looking for, what is the community? What do you all believe we need to make sure our kids know and are able to do when they leave and enter the workforce? They could go to college, they could go to the military, but at the end of the day, we want our kids to be productive citizens in society, right? We don't just want them sitting at home doing nothing. We want them out working. So some way they're gonna end up getting a job. The other spot on there, if you're interested, I'm going to be developing what's called a community business council, and that's representing community folks and business folks in the community to give me input and feedback as I work as superintendent to support students. So if you're interested in that, there's a spot to check, put your name, phone, and email address. Mr. Bittner is going to be facilitating that process. We are going to have an application. It's not going to be very long, but we do want to make sure that we're getting a nice mix of folks on the committee and different locations. So we'll ask you to fill out that information and that application, submit it, and then we'll make sure and reach out to you in July to get that set up for the next year. So that's just another way that I want to make sure I have voices heard as we make decisions within our school system, because I think it's important that I listen and learn from each of you as we go through that. So to kind of share where some things we are right now, the disappointing part is we don't have a budget. If you're watching the news or anything, the governor has not officially given us a budget for the school system yet, which is very, very late. We normally have that much sooner, so we're now waiting for that budget to be released. But we are anticipating what those things could look like. So I wanted to share a couple pieces that have come out through the legislature. Number one, the school start time bill. There was a school start time bill that was requiring next year our students to flip-flop, our elementary students to go earlier and our high school students to go later as far as transportation, picking them up and starting school. Superintendents, other folks in the state said, let the local districts decide what's best for our community. We don't need the state deciding it. We need to decide in Citrus County and in other counties. My colleagues out there said, let us decide. Well, luckily it worked because they listened. They've now taken that bill and they've said, districts, you decide how you want to do it. We have to submit a plan to them of what we're doing and how we're doing it. But what works for Citrus County is going to work for Citrus County, and the state's not going to dictate how we do it. So I'm very happy that we have that opportunity to be able to do that. That's a very positive move. And so but that took a lot of work of people speaking and talking on behalf of what's best for our community, because what may work here may not work in another community. The other piece that's very exciting is, if you may have heard about this funding for our AP and IB programs, they were going to cut it, eliminate it. We found out full funding for those programs. So we're so excited about that. Full funding, and we know, if you know those programs, Mr. Bittner was over our IB program at LeCanto High School. Those are phenomenal programs that help support our kids and give our kids the tools that they need to be successful. And so we appreciate that we're able to have that.
Could you name names?
Name?
How did that happen?
There were, you mean as far as like, there were lots of legislators that were contacted to be able to do. Is that what you're asking for? Just, I mean, it was a variety of different groups. I will tell you, with a group called Space Florida, Karen Hoffman, huge proponent of being able to say, listen, this is going to limit the number of students being able to have some opportunities for advanced, programs. And so they spoke out on behalf of making that happen. But I will tell you, I believe our legislators listen when we reach out. We just have to make sure that we inundate them with the information. Yes. Yeah, all of those programs. And that's very important. It's huge. Listen, you don't know how huge that is. It's huge. So I do want to share a little shout out since we brought up for technical education. If you're not familiar, and I thank you, Vicki, when she mentioned I was Teacher of the Year for the state. When I received that opportunity to be Teacher of the Year for the state, it wasn't just you're Teacher of the Year for the state and they have a dinner. It was then you're removed from the classroom and you actually go out and speak. I don't know if you knew that. The state Teacher of the Year is on sabbatical for 1 year in their school district, and they then go and they travel the state and the nation on behalf of public. They talk about the work that happens. When I was Teacher of the Year, we had about 130,000 teachers that I had the opportunity to go travel the state and the nation. I was all over Colorado, California, Texas, Boston, all over, speaking on behalf of teachers and what we do in the state of Florida. So the cool thing is this year, they do what they call during this process finalists. They have 5 finalists. That means 5 teachers that are selected that are the top 5 for the state, because there's 67 schools, select 5. One of those 5 becomes the state Teacher of the Year. We are in Citrus County that one of those teachers, Crystal River High School, this is a picture of her, is CTE teacher, teaches culinary at Crystal River High School, does an amazing job as one of the 5 finalists. She is actually because once you're selected as the 5 finalists, they bring you up to Tallahassee, and it now becomes not that you're a great teacher, because all 5 of the folks that won this award are great teachers. Now it becomes, can you be in education? Because it's 178,000 teachers now that we have in the state of Florida compared to my 130, that if she were to win, were to be the representative of all those teachers. So they bring her up to Tallahassee. She went up on Monday. She does a lot of interviews, have her meet and mingle. She does a lot of different things. They're judging her from day 1 till the day she leaves, of how she interacts, how she composes herself, how she answers questions, how she speaks, is she articulate. At the end of the week, they'll make a decision of which one of those 5 will be the state Teacher of the Year. in July, they do a big dinner, and that's when they'll announce who the state teacher of the year will be. Our hope is there's good and bad. We want it to be Autumn, but it's Autumn. Autumn's not teaching next year for us. She's traveling, but she's speaking on behalf of great teachers, Citrus County and Christopher High School. So that's a great thing for our district, and I just wanted to share local teacher here at Christopher High School. If you've ever been to her classroom, the culinary work that she does, she's an amazing person. And so we're going to keep our fingers crossed for Autumn that she's able to do that. The other piece that you might have heard about is there's a driver's ed bill, SB 944, that has passed, and that's requiring all students to take driver's ed before they get their permit. And so I think that's a good thing, right? For kids to have to do something to do that. So we're very excited that we know that passed, and we think that's going to be a positive for our kids to be able to have that. So we know that's a piece of legislation that's out there. The other piece that I wanted to share is the Chamber of Commerce, which I'm speaking to this Friday, puts out a report, and they get a number of third grade. They look at our third grade reading scores to determine how our kids are doing. And so the number that's put out, and this is last year's number because the new data has not yet been released from the state, is 53% of our students are reading at level 3 or above. So the 53% is correct, but the 94% is actually representative of the number of students we actually moved from 3rd to 4th grade. I know most of you out there would not want to just be judged on one test. Like if you were going to get your driver's license again, would you say one time you're going to take it, if you fail it, then you can't drive? You would want to have an opportunity to retake it, right? If you're good. I feel like I'm on space, right? The way it's, so I think it's important that we give students those opportunities. But I just wanted to share with you, those numbers are out there. We know we want that level 3 to be higher, and we want to do that. But we also want to be clear that we know when the state is giving us that information and giving kids those opportunities, I believe we want to give kids as many opportunities as we can. So to kind of share a personal story, in my role as superintendent, I have to get what I called certified to be a superintendent. So I got elected, and I had qualifications to do all that, but now they have a requirement that we have to go through and take classes. And so every month since November, I've been taking classes. I either go to Gainesville, Tallahassee, Miami, where I take classes 2 days, and then I have to take a test. Yes, I have to take a test. And here's the funny thing. They don't let you have a computer. You don't have an iPad. They do it the old-fashioned way, paper, pencil. So we sit in a room with all the other new superintendents that are being trained to get certified. They give us blank pieces of paper, and then it's either multiple choice, so there's some multiple choice, and I usually have about 15 essay questions that I have to respond to. They have to be a page, 2 pages long. And then they grade, and those are all by hand with a number 2 pencil. I can't even bring in my own pencil. And you're all in a separate room. I will tell you, every test I've taken, I have passed with flying colors. Woo! I'm so excited. Yes, yes. In fact, I have to go to Tampa tonight to take another one because I have another test today that I have to take. And it's a 2-year process to do that. But here's the positive. I said I passed every one. Some of my colleagues may not have passed them. They get opportunities to retake. So if they don't pass it, they go do what they call remediation. They can review the information and go and retake that assessment. Our third graders with this 53%, they don't get that opportunity, right, to change that number. That's where we want to make sure we articulate that 53% is correct, but the 94% really represents the students being promoted to 4th grade and the students that through other methods are showing that they have knowledge and skill in the 3rd grade curriculum. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that as well. The other exciting thing that's happening this summer, in July, Mr. Bittner oversees a program called Summer Rise. Anybody familiar with this? You might get some takers today, Mr. D, to help. Summer Rise is an opportunity we offer rising seniors. These are juniors entering their senior year to learn what they need to do as they're entering in their senior year, what they're going to do after high school. Some students, again, may military, some may go into a post-secondary, whether it's college or technical school, or enter the workforce. This program gives students an opportunity to develop some of those skills, learn from local people, get a chance to do interviewing skills. So they get mock interviews, lots and lots of opportunities. This started 5-6 years ago, Mr. Bittner, with about 15 kids. Today, as of today, over 200 students have registered to sign up to be a part of this program. So it's a great opportunity, and it was all word of mouth. It started with David Reed from the YMCA. The school system said, this is great, we want to partner, we want to do this. So now we've done that. Here's the great thing that's happening this summer. Craig Dalton, who's our property appraiser, I don't know if you know Craig or are familiar with him. Craig and I have become very good friends through campaign and afterwards. Met with all of the constitutional officers on Monday and said, I want to do something to support our kids. So he met with all of us. We all got together and said, I think we should do a panel at Summer Rise with all the constitutional officers where we can talk about the opportunities in Florida, where we can talk about the opportunities in government and civics, and to show the students and answer questions that they may have. So it's going to be great to see every constitutional officer in this room together on a stage in a panel with 200 students being able to interact and learn together. That's what makes Citrus County great, because I will tell you, my colleagues in other counties tell me that isn't how it works. They don't have that same collaboration with their other elected officials. I feel very lucky and fortunate in Citrus. We have that. I feel like we have a very collaborative group. People want to work together, and we want to do that. So we're very excited that Mr. Dalton has put this out there and that we all are on board to do that. But if you're interested in helping and being a part of that, if you want to be an interviewer, that means you would do one-on-one interviews with students. Mr. Bittner can take your name and information, and we'd love to have you. You can do, doesn't mean you have to do the both days. You could come for just part of a day, and we'll sign you up to meet with kids. But it's a great way to get to know students. We've had businesses and community members there that once they interview the kids, they end up hiring them to work for them because they're like, hey, we need someone. Would you want to do part-time work over the summer? And they end up getting jobs and working for them through the school year and into the next year. So if you're interested, love to have you be a part of it. If you want to come watch, we'd love to have that as well, because it's a great way that we're connecting and working with our students. The other exciting piece is one of my big focus has been recruitment and retention of teachers and staff in our school system. And so last year we had about 80 positions at this time posted. This year, 36. So we've had a much better way of, I believe, retaining our teachers, trying to keep them in the profession, and also we've recruited some additional folks that are wanting to move here and be a part of our community. So we still have work to do. You know, we still want to fill those positions, but we're very fortunate that that number is as low as it is, because that's a great way to show that we have people that want to be in front of our kids. Because I want folks that are teaching in front of our kids that want to be there. I want to make sure they love kids, they care about kids, and they want to make a difference in a kid's life. That's what's important to me. That's why I'm in the role I'm in, and that's why I do the work that I do. So we want to make sure that we're choosing those right students. But I'm very excited about what we have done to share with you. Those are just a few of the key points. Again, the rest of it will be shared at the board meeting, but I do want to make sure to give you an opportunity if you have questions or things you want to ask me or information you need. Yes.
Is Summarize a one-day program, a week program, or?
Mr. Bittner, would you like to come up? Because they're recording it, so you probably need to come up. Yes, please.
Absolutely. Summarize is a two-day event. It's going to be July 22nd and 23rd, and the day that the constitutional officers are going to speak is going to be July 22nd, and it'll be a panel discussion during lunch, so the kids will be eating lunch while they get to learn about civics.
Yes.
Back here?
Yes, ma'am.
I wondered what the current graduation rate is, and it sounds like Summarize is one piece that you're putting in place, but what other kinds of interventions do you plan to implement? So
that's a great point. I should have shared that originally. We had shared that back in January because that's when that data comes out. We are at a 91.4% graduation rate. We were at 84 last year. So we have made a huge increase. And that is really due to our staff. I give that credit to our principals at our high schools and our teachers at our high schools, because they're getting with students to say, how can we help you get there? What are those pathways you need? And that's where students need to know what are some options for them to do that. So we're very excited about that graduation rate. We believe connecting with families and giving them those opportunities is what it's all about. So very proud of that. We're definitely above the state averages at like 88%. So we're much higher than the state, and we feel very confident with that in our district. So, and what was your other question? I'm sorry. Did I answer it?
Well, I do. Give somebody else a chance.
Okay, we'll go. Yes.
Yeah, back to the reading level and the third graders.
Yes.
So the concept is also, if you're having trouble reading now, you're going to have trouble keeping up in fourth.
Yes.
So these alternative measures
Yes.
are capturing the aptitude that the student is able to apply to fourth grade,
Yes.
as opposed to
Yes.
Thinkorswim.
Right. And that was the intent of what they call the good cause indicators, which are the other assessments. Again, one day, think about this. It's one day, a one-day test. And imagine if you were working in a business or somewhere and they said your raise is going to be dependent on one day. Don't we all have a bad day? We all have maybe more than one bad day. So that's where some of these alternative assessments then are able to show, does the students have mastery and skill to be able to be promoted? And so that's where it's nice. And the portfolio is great because some students just are not good test takers. They just can't do that. But the portfolio says, okay, I can show that I know these standards and these skills, and they can put that down, and we can then prove that they have those skill sets. And I will say, so our third grade scores at the 53%, but obviously our graduation rate at 91.4% is showing the goal is I want 100. I want 100% graduating, but that's showing how many students are walking across the stage with a diploma, standard diploma. Yes.
A follow-up to what we're talking about. If the third grader takes the test that day and they pass it, they automatically go to fourth grade. So really, at that point, it's not dependent on any of their other marks. And wow, okay.
It's based on that test.
Okay.
Yes, that is
pull all the rest in
right.
If they need to.
Right. That is the marker that's used. Again, they take it at the end of the year. We actually have our data. You know, we're reviewing it and looking at it now because now the other piece is, like I told you, I do mine hand, paper, pencil. All of our students' assessments are on the iPad, so they take them electronically. Even when they have to write something, typing it, they have to type it. They're not handwriting things. They're doing it on the computer. And, you know, the reason for that, I know the state requires that because it's more efficient. That way, once it's done, it's in, you get an automatic, you know, response back to do that. So that's where they do that. But then someone was asking me earlier about cursive. Do we teach cursive? Yes, we teach cursive handwriting. We do. However, here's when people say, but I don't see the kids writing in cursive. Here's the problem. So in second and third grade, we introduce cursive. They learn all the strokes. They learn how to do it. But if they're not being expected to write everything in cursive, and think about the tests, what did I say? The tests are done on the computer. Kids aren't practicing. And it's like with anything. If you don't practice, are you going to get any better at it? So that's part of the piece too. So we do instruct it, but it's not a tested subject, right? Because they don't test to say, can the kids do it? The teachers make sure they teach it. I can take you in classrooms and show you where they're doing it, but then the kids don't practice it. So then when they get further along in their career, it's like anything, they lose it, you know, if you don't practice it. So, yes.
They're teaching children how to critically think and reason so they're not susceptible to cults and all of sports and marketing and whatnot, to really think, because I'm just going to add on my opinion here, is my view has been that the authorities don't want children to be curious and think. They just want them to obey. And what that's producing is a lot of children that are lost. So are there any programs that you're working on?
I wouldn't necessarily say we have a specific program, but what I can tell you is within our standards, which we teach standards, the state gives us the standards of learning all these different pieces. There are opportunities, and I can take you in classrooms. I know Mr. Bittner could at the IB program, where students are asked to, here's this piece of text, here's this piece of text, critically analyze it and have a rich discussion about it. So they're embedded into the teaching practices, but it's not a specific program that we specifically have. But we do want kids to think and learn critically. So yes. So if I can share one thing and then we'll jump to questions. So I do could just tag in with that. So, I talked about the pathways, and we have a lot of great at our high schools and at Academy of Environmental Science opportunities for students to do different pieces and options. But where I feel we're missing the boat, and this is where I put this in place starting this year, is in our middle school. I don't think we're hitting our kids early enough to address some of these. So I'm creating a program. It's called Toolbox for Tomorrow's Leaders. And what it's going to be, we're going to start at one of our middle schools and then expand to the others. It's going to be an after-school program for about 8 to 10 weeks. I'm going to have local business and community leaders come in and teach kids practical skills, how to do things, how to do carpentry, right? How to do electrical, how to do plumbing. Students are going to sign up for that. I have businesses beating my door down saying, I want to help, I want to do this. And they're not this is free. They're doing this for free. They're like, we'll do it. We'll even supply you with the supplies. We just want to get this in the hands of our kids. Those are pieces that our kids have not had the option to have in the school system, and so we want to make sure that we're giving them these opportunities. Along with that, there's a program called Zello, which is a career planning tool that we're going to implement in middle school, where students are going to kind of start exploring what are some options. So as they get to high school, they develop that pathway of which way they want to go, and they'll know which courses to take, what are activities they can do, but they need hands-on opportunities to do that. And that's why the Toolbox for Tomorrow's Leader is, to me, the opportunity that we can get those opportunities for kids to learn and grow and have folks that want to be a part of that and help with our kids. So just wanted to share that because that tied in with what you asked. Ooh, I had some question. Yes.
Question, so one, how is the voucher system impacting the public school attendance for occupancy rate? Second thing is, I see a lot in the crime statistics, young people, and they end up in the juvenile detention centers here in Citrus County. How is our school system intervening so that they don't repeat, there's no recidivism there, but ongoing, so that there's some kind of program that can maybe break the cycle? And they're in the juvenile detention center. I don't know if we do have a program.
So you asked tell me the first one again, the voucher. So let me do that and then we'll jump to the other. So the voucher system, yes, it is impacting us. I will tell you our enrollment if you look at it from our middle and high school, is declining. But here's the interesting part, our elementary enrollment is increasing. So we believe there's going to come a point, because what parents, we think, because if you take one of the vouchers, you get about $8,000 or $9,000. This past year, there was no mechanism to verify if you took the money and you said, I'm going to take the $8,000, but then 2 months later you said, I can't take this anymore, and you brought them back, you kept the money. There was no checks and balances. So the state is working on a better system to be able to do that. We think that's going to change our trajectory of our enrollment of our students in our schools. But we are seeing a higher number of students coming in at the elementary, but in middle and high school, some of the families are choosing to do home education, keep their students at home. But what happens is they'll keep them at home for 6-9 weeks, then they'll bring them back, then they're behind. And so then we're dealing with, they don't have the credits they need, they don't have the skills they need, and so we're having to backfill all of this work. Here's where that affects our graduation rate. So graduation rate, the 90% that I mentioned, 91.4%, is based on 4 years. So you start in 9th grade, you graduate in 12. We do have students that take longer than 4 years, and sometimes that happens. They do not account for that. So if they don't graduate in the 4 years, they start in 9th grade, don't graduate in 12th, they don't count. We still excited, we get them graduated, they may take a little bit longer, but they impact our graduation rate because they're not part of that 4-year cohort. So what we believe is this could have an impact on that, because if students come back and we need to say, well, we're going to have you take an extra semester or stay a little bit longer, do some additional work, then that's going to impact them doing that in the 4-year mark. So yes, the vouchers, I believe, are. As you know, the federal government also, it's been locally, when I say locally, it's been the state, now the federal government's coming involved in that as well. So we believe it's going to do that, but we also believe, my goal is I want to market our school system to say, this is the place to bring your kids. We have great programs, we have great opportunities. you know, a parent, again, they have a choice. Parents can have choices. They want to homeschool their kid, but I want to say, but they're not going to get some of the great opportunities that we have in Citrus County Public Schools. And I want them to know what those great opportunities are, that they want to be here and be a part of us, because they're not going to maybe get all those being at home education. So you mentioned the juvenile justice system. Juvenile detention center, yes. And we do see that. We do work very closely. I'll go back to Sheriff Vincent. You know, every school has either an SRO or a guardian present. And so we work to build those relationships. We have some great programs with the sheriff's office. I know Sheriff Vincent, I just spoke to him 2 weeks ago, and there's some other programs. We want to kind of do some early intervention programs to help intervene at the elementary level, because by the time they get to high school, sometimes they're in that wrong group of kids. And so if we can get them earlier, elementary, middle, we might be able to get them out of that track. That's our goal. That's our focus. Yeah. Go right. Yes. In the dot. Yes. Yes.
We actually have either a class or a club for financial management. They actually have a portfolio of money that they're actually learning to manage.
We actually have that at one of our high schools, and we're expanding it to the other 2 high schools in the next couple of years. That started out, Derek, if you correct, I think it was maybe $100,000, and it's well over $1 million now. And the students are learning investment, how to invest. We have Scott Lee from Inverness that comes in and teaches the kids, and then the teachers involved. And so we were able to get donations to say, you know, it's not the kids' money, but they see the money grow. But guess what? It turns into scholarships. So if the students are able to invest within this club correctly, by the end of the year, they then dole out scholarships from the investments of that money, so it pays the kids back. So not getting the money like, well, they are getting it, they're getting a scholarship, if that makes sense.
I just wanted to help out with her question. There is the teen court program.
Yes.
In Citrus County.
Yeah.
Which is a diversionary program that helps kids that have committed minor crimes, and we try to teach them about the juvenile justice system itself, and they are judged by their own peers, and it's a very...
And you're very involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So yes, we do have, but I know there's other things we're trying to do at the elementary level as far as trying to get those skills involved, but thank you, Todd.
A comment and a question. I'm Dr. B.J. Ezel. I recently retired from public health, as well as being an educator. I had the opportunity to do online teaching for a college in public health, not in Florida, just want to say that. And I was appalled and disappointed that our kids do not know how to write. And when I say write, we give them 10 questions, and what you expect back is a narrative formatted, an APA format, or any other kind of format, as long as it's universally recognized. And I had to actually go to the leadership to say, I'm not able to teach this class because you do not have students that know how to write at the college level. So I'm saying that to implore you to continue that writing experience for students, and I am putting my name on the list for that panel discussion as well. But my question is, where did we fail? Why don't they know how to write a paper when they get to college? And by the way, I did ask them to institute a non-credit course that any student can take. Yes, it will delay this by a semester in terms of being able to graduate, but it's just so fundamental. And I didn't want to be a dropout from teaching for that reason, but it was just really, really sad. So tell me just a little bit about.
So we do, and I can share personally, when I taught at the elementary level, I taught writing. I taught 4th grade and I taught 5th grade, and both of those grade levels, we had a writing assessment. And so that's very important to me, I think, to be able to articulate yourself in the written format and to know how to use language to do that. But, and I'm just going to be honest, the phone, the technology that's out there today is, it could be a positive, but it also could be a hindrance for our students because they're leaning into that. And I don't want to open up this can of worms, Mr. Bittner, but I'm going to say, so artificial intelligence, machine learning, ChatGPT, many of our students now, because those are products that are out there that are being used and not that I don't think they're not good products, but is it causing a concern for our students to be able to think for themselves and how to word? Because I can tell you when I get emails, and I'll tell this from companies, and I look at them like, ChatGPT wrote that, because you could see exactly the wording, some of the words that are in there. People are using that to create their messaging. And I think it's creating an issue that we have to say, like that's for when I do my test, paper, pencil. I can't go to ChatGPT and say, how do I answer this, right? I have to do it on my own. I have to think for myself. So we want to make sure that we're giving kids those opportunities to do that. And again, I don't think it's bad, some of the products that are out there. Is it being used appropriately? We want to make sure that we're doing that right. So I agree. I know that's important to me. I know it's important to my staff that students know how to write. We want to make sure that we're, and I say write versus cursive. Remember, two different things, right? Cursive is, writing in cursive, but there's also just writing and formulating your thoughts and ideas and how to do that. So, yes.
Literacy and numeracy both are issues throughout the country in terms of students developing proper skills. I wondered what kind of intervention programs do you have or do you want to have for really all levels when kids are determined, aside from students with special needs and their programming, or students who are determined to be lacking in literacy and numeracy skills?
So I'm going to start with the numeracy, and then I'm going to jump to literacy. So numeracy, we've seen our math scores are not where we want them to be at the district level. So this past year, I've done some restructuring at the district level, and when I say that, I've eliminated some positions at the top level because my goal is to push the funding down to the classroom. I need to get the support as close to kids as possible to help them. So one of the things we've noticed is we have teachers saying, I don't have the same knowledge and skill to be able to teach math, to understand that work. So we've hired a math expert. We had one. This person did the entire district. I have 2,400 employees in my school district, 2,400. One person that oversees math. So we decided to add a second person that can then divide it up between our elementary and our secondary, and then go out and do some train the trainers and provide professional development on that. So we see that as a need, and we're doing that. As far as the literacy piece, I partner with the Education Foundation. If you're aware of that group, that's a great organization. They offer a program for elementary called First Library, and that's where kids in pre-K and kindergarten each get a book every other month that we have what's called a celebrity reader. I've done that, and I will share I've done that in my grandson's class because he was in kindergarten. So I got to go in and read to his class, and then they each get a copy of the book that I read to them to take home so they can practice and learn to read with their family. So it's great. By the end of the 2 years, the pre-K and kindergarten year, they get, I think, close to 12 or 15 books that they get to have with their own little library at home starting there. We also have the reading program called Reading Pals that we have that the foundation runs. It used to be with United Way, and they shifted it over to the foundation. So if you're interested, that's a great program where you go in, you meet with small groups of kids, we provide training, provide the resources. You can determine what works for your schedule, to go in and meet with the students. We have it at all of our elementary schools, and it really gives that one-on-one interaction and time for the kids. At our middle and high schools, we have a mentorship program. We have 2 of them, Men Building Men and Women Building Women. And that's where we have local folks that want to get involved and connect with kids. And they go in, they meet with the students. If they need help, let's say in their high school, and like, okay, I'm trying to decide what to do. Then they sit down with them, talk with them, give them some ideas. If they're having trouble in a class, they sit and work with them and help them on those skill sets. And so again, we provide that training for those that want to be involved in that. But we have both of those programs at the secondary level that we really feel are beneficial and valuable for our kids. So.
And also you, I'm sure, have teachers do professional development so
Yeah.
that they are better able to intervene for kids.
Oh, yes. That is just part of what we do. Yes, we're actually now we have teachers doing training within our district. We send some of the teachers to other state conventions that we have, and so they're doing that, and then they bring that information back. So yes, those are already in place. Yes, Vicki.
This is a crazy world,
Mhm.
and a lot of what goes on makes absolutely no sense. I want you to know I had surgery on Monday, but I was not going to miss this opportunity to be here because I've watched you your whole career, and this is common sense. What you're doing, I think is wonderful. I am not gonna be up nights worrying about the school district.
Right.
And I even checked the box here because I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you have a partnership with the sheriff
Yes.
because I think he's wonderful and volunteer there also.
Awesome. Thank
The
you.
question that I have for you is, you see, we have an audience here. We're not parents, we might be grandparents,
Right,
whatever.
right.
What can we do to support what you're doing?
So I would say one of the big things is, I think, being involved, being active. I will say, and I don't know your involvement or what your focus is as far as legislation, but I would say if you see legislation coming and want myself or Mr. Bittner probably be the better, just because he might have more availability than me, but to come and say, can you brief us on what are some things we need to be watching and helping? Because I'm going to tell you, when you reach out to legislators and they hear from people that we talk, I mean, I talk to them. Our organization, I'm a superintendent organization I'm involved with, we talk to them, but you know who they listen to? The community. They listen to the public because they're like, oh, well, Scott, you just want it because you want more money. Like those programs I was mentioning, the IP, the IB, the AP, and the CTE programs. They're like, you just want it because you want more money. No, I want it because it's good for kids. But if they hear from community members, that means a lot. So I think any connection you have there, any voice that you have, I think if you're willing and able to volunteer and support our kids in the local community, again, we have schools all over this county, great things happening. Are kids challenging today? Absolutely. We have a lot of kids in poverty. If you're not aware, Citrus County is a very impoverished county, very impoverished. And you look at our district compared to St. John's. St. John's poverty rate, I believe, is like 8%. Like it's very small. Our rate, we have the number of students in free and reduced lunch is about 80% of our students on free and reduced lunch. Those are students that may go home, not have a hot meal at the house. That's why Blessings is such an invaluable part of our school district, because they provide those weekend meals for our kids. The foundation that comes in and gets a lot of community support and gets a lot of matching grants to help our teachers, those are things we can do. So we would encourage you, if you want myself, Mr. Bittner, or anybody staff to come and speak or give you some ideas of what we can do. Legislation is probably the biggest thing, because as you probably know, I'm assuming you all watch some of this, those things impact what we do. You know, when those things get pushed down, you know, my big push was the start times. We cannot change that. The families that talk to me crying in my office telling me, Scott, we can't change the start time. I don't have anybody to watch my kids. If my high school kids have to stay till 5 o'clock and my elementary kid gets out at 3, who's going to watch them? I don't have the money to pay for daycare. They're telling me this. These are the stories that I hear that I'm sharing that is making the difference to say, let us make the decision. In St. John's, it may not be an issue. They may say, we got plenty of money to handle that. Sarasota may not need that. We're different. And I want to make sure for this community, I'm being the champion for what needs for our kids and our community. That's my goal. So I hope that answers your question, Vicki.
My question.
Yes. Here, we'll go here now. Come. Yes, ma'am.
To read novels, real novels,
Oh.
beginning to end, or are they just started and then the teachers fill in the middle and then they finish the end together?
So
Read that paper somewhere.
there, let me share a little bit. In our textbooks, we adopt textbooks every year. Within our textbooks, they'll take an excerpt from a piece of literature and embed it in, kind of get the kids enticed about it. And then the goal would be the teacher uses that to teach that small portion of literature. Then they say, now go to the media center and check that book out and read that book. So are they encouraged? Yes, they're encouraged. Is it part of our curriculum? Yes, they've embedded that in, but it's not that they're saying we don't. But if we're trying to teach a variety of skills, sometimes there's just a piece or part of a piece of literature like Black Beauty, right? Might be a piece where just a few, chapter or two is embedded in there to teach and talk about a particular skill.
They could read a whole novel from beginning to end. It would give them a sense of accomplishment. They finished it.
Yeah, and we do offer that. We actually have at our elementary and middle school, a program called, what's it called there? Renaissance, where they read and take tests. AR, Accelerated Reader, yes. So the students are encouraged to read. They take quizzes at the end to show that they've mastered, but they have to read the book to be able to show that to the teacher. So we do that at our elementary and middle school level. And at the high school level, I know there's other opportunities. They don't necessarily take a quiz on it, but they may do a report or share that information with the teacher. But we do that. Yes, go. And then I'll come around.
Speaking from the perspective of this wonderful earthly king of mine who retired after 35 years of work with the Juvenile Detention Center.
Thank you.
As a captain and assistant superintendent. And I've been a nurse for 50 years, still an active license. I am a member of the African American Club of Citrus County. I want to thank you for continuing to allow them into the school, to meet with students, to interview them, to prep them for being able to submit a request for scholarship funding. This year, we were able to give 12 scholarships, and I think 2 of those also were adult scholarships. So I asked if I could do an announcement at our indoor picnic on Saturday, where we honored those students and their parents, and I saw little kids there. So I thought, let me ask a couple of questions while we're here, and I've got a captive audience of about 100 people. So how many of you are familiar with the Florida Education Fund? And I wait for hands to go up, maybe 3. I said, how many of you are familiar with the National Achievers Society? I saw no hands go up. So I'm interested in being able to infuse into your system advisors, counselors, to give more information on specific scholarships that are little known. And when I talk about the Florida Education Fund, the National Achievers Society is one that we had to suffer through our children with. However, it used to be from 3rd grade, and now it's from kindergarten to 9th grade that they can enter this once a month, one meeting, and they have a parent and a children's division. And what it does on the parent level is provide enrichment. Have an artist come in and actually do artwork. And on the children's end, to give them the skills that you're talking about. However, in any society and culture, there are those that float to the top and those that are left trying to rise.
Right.
For these students, it is that maybe among their peers and culture, it's frowned upon to be one who excels. So National Achievers is there to say, hey, there are like people like you that are scholastically head and shoulders above the rest, and they need to communicate with each other. No one knew that existed. And I'd like to be able to, with the group that you're talking about, Seniors Rising.
Yes.
No, TULIP. What was it?
Summarize.
Yes. To just help advocate that those kinds of things continue. And you guys have done a great job. And we had 39 applications this year, and we were able to give 12 scholarships. So y'all come.
Well, we appreciate, I know, that support of the community with our scholarships. So any of those other things, we certainly, I don't mind, we can get you in touch with Mr. Bittner, and we can get you in front of those, our counselor groups at our secondary level. That would be absolutely wonderful. Because there's so many things out there, we don't always know everything. So we got to rely on each other.
Did you?
Mr.
That you want to be part of. I wrote down National Achievers, Florida Education Fund, and you want to be part of that conversation.
Yes, and the conversation, as you guys are certainly with your book of Hoochie, I have pronounced that word because I've been here 9 years and it's like I always meant it. But you have the technical schools. However, students that are currently in your technical school and those that are looking to go to technical school might grow from the move from the television series Dirty Jobs. At one point, he was given $1 million a year to help students who we now know we need those technical skills for mechanics and electricians and all of those things. He has bumped that up to $2.5 million this year. No one in that room of 100 people knew about that. So let me know when I can come.
Nope, we'll get you on the list.
And we can talk about
He
it.
will get you on the list. Anything? Yeah.
I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Do we teach sex education in school or not?
You want to share what we do at secondary?
You're absolutely right. That is the elephant in the room. And I would go back to government getting involved and dictating what can and cannot be done in a school system. And our goal for Dr. Hebert and our entire district is whatever decision we make, we want to make sure that we're legally defensible on it. And so the state is very clear, and each year they keep adding constrictures on what we can and cannot do. So to answer your question is, we absolutely teach sex ed that the state allows us to teach. We do not go above and beyond that because we're trying to walk that narrow line. And if we are good to go above or beyond that, then all of a sudden we end up having more challenges because people are going to say we're doing something that's inappropriate or not correct according to what the state is. Tricky landscape, elephant in the room, 100%. So we are trying to navigate as a school district, just walk down the fine line that the state tells us we can do and stay there for right now. But to your point, you're absolutely right. Those types of things with the young women and the dangers that they could be prevented from enduring, it's unfortunate we can't do more at some points.
So you need public outcry is what you need.
We need this group to advocate with legislatures to tell them that they need to change laws so that we can do what you guys feel is best. For me or for,
for you.
I'm taking,
Look at you.
Are the teachers allowed to bring in, outside speakers in the sex ed classes?
depends on what you mean by outside. The answer would be those speakers, if we bring them in, are going to be vetted to make sure that what they're going to do follows state law. So it's like anything that we do with curriculum. If we have curriculum, we approve the curriculum and make sure that that is appropriate and follow what the DOE guidelines are. If a outside speaker wants to come in, we would vet to make sure that whatever they're talking about would have that. And the state has closed some of that loophole because they do make it a responsibility of the school district to monitor who is speaking to their students. And so, yes, we do that. Whether you like that answer or not, I'm not trying to be mean or happy. I'm just telling you that's how we're navigating it. Me again or him?
Well, are breakfast and lunch provided as part of the school program, K through 12 and pre-K through 12? And is there a plan in place for, will that continue if the budget cuts come down and the state refuses to take federal funds or federal cuts or?
At this point, our Director of Food Services, Roy Pistone, has said that that is not being cut at this point, and our plan is to continue to do that. We are what we call a CEP district, which means we offer breakfast and lunch to all students. That started right before or right after COVID. We were able to do that. And it's because of the poverty rate and the free and reduced lunch rate in Citrus County, which is why we do that. And we also offer, just so you know, what we call a super snack, which is after school, if students are staying after for sports or extracurricular activities or tutoring, they can get food as well in the afternoon.
Many of the students that I encountered were from higher income level families who had no food because both parents were working and were dashing out the door to get to their jobs. Kids didn't make their lunch or the specialty from lunch money or whatever. So it's not just, a privilege or
Right.
poverty line. And I think that awareness has made the public more accepting of food should be part of public education.
Yeah, and if a student doesn't have those basic needs, they're not going to be ready to work and learn. And I'm going to go back to the point that Mr. Bittner said that, the state does put a lot of restrictions on the school district. Our funding is very restricted as far as categoricals. They say this money is used for this money is used for that. You must do this. We have to write a plan for certain, like for reading. We write a reading plan, and they say you have to tie funding into that reading plan, so you have to tie a certain percentage. There's also requirements of instruction that we have to do, and we just submitted it last week, and it's a list, one of our directors handles that, is a list of everything that we teach, what that lesson plans are, and that has to be submitted to the state of what we do and how we do it. And we have to show the products and tools that we're using to do that. When I first started teaching, that was not the case. So it has become much more where they're telling us, okay, here's a list of what you have to do. Now we want to see that you've done it, and this is the tools, and almost to the point where they're telling us, and here's the product you have to use to do that work. So it is becoming, we have to navigate through that because we know that there are things, but we also, as Mr. Bittner said, we want to make sure we're following the laws and the requirements of what the state is telling us. But we're hoping with some legislative voices listening are going to be able to change that to say we need to give our local community control of what's right and how we need to teach our kids. So.
It's a shame that Rosemary Nils, our first vice president, is not here today because she sleeps and breathes education, and we talk about preemption that the state is trying to tell the local communities what they have to do. And that brings me, excuse me, I can't twist around, so I have to turn around here. If you're as inspired as I am here, you're probably saying to yourself, I want to get involved. I want to do something. Jan, do you have those surveys back there for our members? Because we're looking to get people more involved. We want people to know about what's going on in the legislature. We are a wonderful board. We have a wonderful board here. We do great things, but we want to get people more involved. So we have a survey here where you can tell us about your talents and where you can get involved in supporting the school district and education.
Yeah, talking about the state and its interference. Have we had any problems in the district with books trying to be banned to review?
Bittner, he does this. This is his job. One of it.
Have we had any problems in the district with books being banned or challenged in school libraries? Good question.
Sure. So I'm on.
The big guy passes the hard questions on to the little guy.
I'll knock on wood here. At this point, Citrus County has never had a book challenge. Okay, so that's a positive. On the other side, and then when it comes to books, well, there's two parts. There's instructional materials like a textbook, and then there's reading materials like novels, etc. So instructional materials, we have a very thorough process where we have community members, teachers, everyone comes in and they review the books, and we only look at the books that are approved by the state. Okay, and so we have that process. But let's set that aside because that's really probably not the flashpoint you're talking about. You're talking about reading materials and reading novels and books. And so we have some exceptional media specialists And all they want to do is help students become literate. But they're very fearful because of all the legislation out there, and they're worried that they might take a book that somehow can be brought to a school board, and then they read one sentence out of it that seems fairly alarming, even though the context of the entire book is not about that single sentence. And so they get very nervous. There is a training, and the only people in this district that are allowed to approve reading material, media specialist books, are going to be media specialists. And there's a training that they go through from the state. And we're right now in the middle of summer. We have 10 days set aside so those media specialists can come in and approve books, because all the books have to be approved by media specialists before they are in the classroom, before they're in the library. And so there are rules that we follow from the state, again, legally defensible, that our media specialists have to follow. And so they look at outside sources to get an idea of what the outside sources is evaluating the book. But they've taken it a step further so far this year. And so because AI, although can be a dangerous proposition, it can also be beneficial, and that's where we're going. So they take what are the rules from the state, put them into AI. Here's the book we want to look at. What are some reviews out there that we can't see? What things are in the book? And then we kind of have another pair of eyes, besides their professional judgment, another pair of eyes from AI to be able to see more, because they can't read every book that's out there. So they need something to help them. And so we have, like I said, no book challenge so far, because our media specialists are paying attention to what the law is and making sure that every single book that's in our library has gone through that approval process and that we're following state guidelines. And so if we do come across a book, sometimes they'll say, this book might not be ready for elementary, but it's probably more appropriate middle school, so we'll make sure that it's placed there. Or maybe not middle school, maybe it should be placed at the high school. So these are professional judgments that media specialists who've been trained to do this type of thing make for us, and we have to trust their judgment, and we've done it. And so far, based on the evidence, again, knock on wood, we have not had any books challenged. Did that answer?
Yeah, question developed in my mind. Being a suspicious person that I am, does that mean that the school district is avoiding all controversial books? A gay kid couldn't find a book in the library that he wants to read. Gay kids, because you guys don't have any books there, you move them. There's nothing to challenge.
The state statute would not say that you can't talk about homosexuality. They'll talk about how it can't be pornographic, and that's a really tough word because nobody ever defines it. And so the answer to that question is no, we're not. Actually, let me back up for a second. So media specialists in our last meeting, they were very concerned because this is kind of getting heated. And what I told them was, okay, set aside the voices on the far right, set aside the voices on the far left, ignore that, follow the state statute, and make sure that we're picking books that meet our legally defensible guidelines, all right? But it does not necessarily preclude that you couldn't have a book that has conversations about homosexuality in it, as long as it meets those guidelines from the state. So I would not say those media specialists are trying to avoid any book. They're just trying to make sure that they can do their job without having that fear behind that they're going to get punished somehow. And they're going to say, well, this is all coming from the right. I'm like, well, no, you also got to, don't worry about the politics, because that's going to be a flexible, fluid thing. Just worry about what the law says and make sure we're doing justice to it.
Well, there's these things, teacher.
That does happen.
Like they are following the state in the national rules, and there's probably some books that have been already deemed as to be banned. So are the media specialists banning those books automatically because they're trying to follow the law?
So I would change that from the word ban, because that becomes a flashpoint and emotional. I'm going to use the word, is it appropriate at that level? Okay.
Sure.
And so, because I think there is a difference there. Because quite honestly, are you going to have a kindergartner read Hamlet? I mean, it's really not appropriate for a kindergartner to read Hamlet. So let's make sure that it's at the higher level. There is no list that I know of that said these books that our media specialists look at, these books are not allowed, so we're not going to do it. They will review every single book. But again, they're going to go through the lens of what the state is saying is acceptable and appropriate, and that's how we do it.
What the state criteria is for the media specialist to use.
There is a media specialist training program, and I'll see if I can get you that link. And if you fill out that card, and you can just put that on the back and the link for that, I'll make sure that we can find that and send it. I don't have any problem being transparent with that, so you know what our media specialists are looking for.
You can add that to my card. I'll make sure it gets me this one.
Thank you.
Everybody gets it.
Thank you. I'll get you back.
And just so you know, Mr. Bittner was over our secondary program, so that's why he has that knowledge. And he actually works with our media specialists. He meets with them monthly to review all this. So he's got that knowledge and skill set. Yes?
Are history teachers free to teach all aspects of American history, like the history of slavery?
They are, I'm going to go back to what Mr. Bittner said, legally defensible. So we have standards that our teachers have to teach, right? And so we have to follow what those, so if the state says, here's your state standards, that's what they're to be teaching. It's what the state guide gives us. So whatever those standards are for that particular grade level. So as far as bringing in your own ideas and thoughts on, well, I want you to know this, we need to know that, is it what the standard is being taught? And that's what we have to follow. That's what, and again, that's one of those pieces where I said we have this list, this checklist, and I have to say, here's everything the teacher taught in this grade on this content. We have to submit that to the state to say, did you do that or did you not do that? And what curriculum did you use?
Can I add to that?
And you're welcome to add that.
I would also add to that is, so yeah, the state has these standards, and I think it's important, but let's ignore the standards in the state and all the craziness in the world right now. If you're a teacher, it's probably best that you don't just promote one point of view, whatever that point of view is. You're not pointing that one point of view. You have a robust conversation with students in your class, and you have that conversation of dialogue, and students can bring up questions to challenge each other. And so you can have a very robust conversation, a lot of different issues, without necessarily as a teacher, well, this is how you should understand history. Because quite honestly, history can be interpreted in many ways. And someone asked a question about critical reading and critical thinking. And that's where that critical thinking component comes in, is students have a chance to talk to each other in a roundtable in a Socratic seminar to be able to have those challenging conversations. Because students can bring them up. Students have that voice and that right to talk. It's just, I think the thing that we want to focus on is, I am not there saying this is how you have to understand history. I want us to have this conversation. The teacher can ask questions.
Another elephant in the room, please. There's so many executive orders. How in the world do you guys keep up with what you're supposed to be doing and have an opportunity to enact it, and then there's another executive order that supersedes it? In particular, how are you currently affected by the disbanding, downsizing, termination of the Department of Education? What keeps you two and others up at night right now?
So the one thing I would say that would have pause for concern for me is we get federal funding from the U.S. Department of Education for our students in a variety of ways. We're a considered low-income school district, so we get additional funding that provides interventions, provides staff, provides programs and resources in those areas. Our food service department is funded from that program. We have Title III, which is our funding for our students of English language learners, students that don't have English as a primary language coming to this country to learn, and students in our classrooms. We get federal money for that. If that money were to go away, I would have concern of how we're going to be able to support those students in that community, because I can share with you many of our staff are funded out of those different pots of money to provide, because it's considered supplementing the system, not supplanting. Supplanting would mean we have a teacher and I'm going to hire another teacher. We can't do that, but I can hire a support person or support teacher to come in, an interventionist or someone like that, that isn't part of what we call our staffing plan. So I would have concern if those things happen. Our federal funding for our food services would be a concern as well, because there's a lot of programs that we fund out of that money. As far as the federal government telling us how to do things, we don't necessarily have a lot that we do. I mean, that we're dealing with other than IDA. There's some things like that the federal government brings down for our ESE students that we deal with, but some of the other pieces, but it'd be the money that I'd be concerned about. Vicki?
We could probably keep you here all day.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I hope if there's other questions, you know, Vicki can reach out to either Derek or myself. I don't mind trying to come back. I will say I do have to go to Tampa tonight for a test, so wish me luck on that. My hand's going to hurt when I'm done.
So if you are a member and you haven't taken a survey yet, please take one. We want you to be involved. We want to be able to get a lot done to support our school system and to support the things that we believe in. If you didn't fill it out today, you'll get one in an email. There'll be one in the newsletter. You'll have my email address. You can get in touch with us on the website. And we want to thank you very much for coming, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
Dr. BJ, I'm a part of the, well, I'm on the board here. And I just want to say, we know that deaths in our county are going down from opioid overdoses, but there's a critical point that I need us of our age to be aware of. Once our elders have surgeries and the like, they are given opioids and other strong medications. There is a tendency for them to easily overdose if they forget when they had their last dose. I have Narcan for free on the table. The health department is doing that. With all the executive mandates that are coming down, I don't know how long we'll be able to do it for free. I have had someone call me over the last week who said they had to put one in every room because they were concerned that their loved one would overdose. So if you need some, it's over here free. I can show you in 30 seconds how to use it so we can save a life and get people to rehabilitation. Thank you.
Thank you, BJ.